The anime opens in a magical world where humans and monsters live together in peace. People with magic can heal monsters. We meet Yu, who possesses the ability of healing. His father brings him a gift, which turns out to be a water bottle. This upsets him, but his father explains that the water is special. Later, Yu notices that the water is changing its shape. Just like magic, it takes the shape of a girl because, well, anime. She introduces herself as Merc, however she doesn't remember anything except for her name. So like every fantasy norm, they decide to go on an adventure to regain her memories. Before starting, they come across a shop to get some resources. While shopping, a fluffy monster steals Yu's stink bag, which is basically used in protecting him from monsters. Merc stumbles while trying to catch the monster, but Yu comes in like a hero and saves her. The fluffy monster runs away, and as they're about to give up on their bag, they hear some roaring sound from the forest. They quickly head there and encounter Enigma, a rare monster which is said to be unbeatable. It attacks Yu, but the fluffy monster comes in clutch and saves him. Merc then sees the stink bag and throws it towards the monster. She asks Yu to use his magic to heal the monster. For the first time, Yu uses his magic and somehow successfully heals the monster, which is like unhealable. Back in the town, they learn that the fluffy monster wanted to get the stink bag to help his friend, Enigma. They both meet Jamo, who's basically their carriage driver. Together they start their journey with hopes of finding answers. And how could we forget about Fluffy? The monster also joins them, and Yu gives him a cute name, Toto. Guess they really won't be in Kansas anymore. Such a boomer reference, I'm sorry. On the other side, in the Spring Hill country, we meet a princess named Salodea. She escapes her teaching lessons in order to play outside. Outside, she stumbles upon an attractive sword. You know how kids are, so she removes the sword. The black smoke starts coming out, which scares her, and she runs away. Meanwhile, Yu and the others reach the Spring Hill area. They notice that their size has been reduced to the size of fairies. Except for Toto. As they travel around the huge forest, they come across some warrior fairies. Fairies learn that our hero, Yu, is a healer, so they ask him to visit their queen in Spring Hill Castle for some important work. They agree and go to meet the queen. She tells them the situation. Basically, a black fog suddenly appeared 2 weeks ago, and it started eating the spring. The queen used her spring magic to protect the castle, but if they don't stop the black fog, then it can damage their entire country. Someone also saw a black dragon inside said fog, but that's not confirmed just yet. The queen then tells that the king who used to live in this country sealed the black fog through a magical sword. However, the sword is currently nowhere to be found. We learn that Salodea is eavesdropping on their conversation and getting worried. Yeah, just like any child would, she's scared of everyone finding out that she's the one who caused this black fog to return. Yu then decides to help the queen, and she grants him some protection from the fog. Meanwhile, Salodea makes a plan to sneak the sword, which is in her possession still, to the location where Yu is going. Later, Yu meets some local fairies, Menarea and Peristos. Suddenly, Salodea comes running because unhealed monsters are following her. The local fairies save her, and Yu successfully heals the monsters. The fairies notice the sword of Salodea and think that it's a battle sword. They assume that the princess has come to seal the black fog, and yeah, that changes the look on Salodea's face as she knows that her plan to throw the sword in had failed. They start traveling on top of Toto. During their journey, they meet Zephrodai, who lives in the Black Forest. Well, let's just say he's not very welcoming. He tells them to go back home. The next day, Yu and Merc notice that Salodea has the legendary magical sword. When they ask about the sword, she just makes up some story, saying she found it buried inside the castle, blah blah blah. Menarea tells them that the fairies from the Black Forest can't fly because one of them committed a crime, and because of that, they have been cursed. Suddenly, they notice that the black fog is coming towards them, and just so it happens, Peristos comes in, hurt because of the black fog. They all thank Zephrodai for saving them, and he gives them a space to stay for a while. Salodea learns that in order to seal the dragon into the stone, it requires a spell. Later, Zephrodai decides to show them the way out of the Hanging Bell Forest. While Peristos is in Zephrodai's house, healing from his injuries, suddenly they all get surrounded by a number of spiders. But Peristos comes to the rescue and defeats all the spiders. During the night, Salodea, the poor little fairy, gets overwhelmed with guilt and finally confesses to everyone that she's the one responsible for releasing the fog and the Black Dragon. The next day, Saladea apologizes to everyone and tells that she's going with you to seal the Black Dragon. She then requests Menaria to stay with Peristos in order for him to recover. Finally, they reach the spot that the dragon is, but surprise, surprise, they get hit by the black fog. Yu wakes up and realizes that the blessing from the queen saved him. Saladea moves forward and she encounters her own dark shadow. The shadow tells her to turn the dragon into stone to save everyone. Meanwhile, Yu learns that the black fog is the heart of the dragon, so he tries to heal the black fog. On the other hand, the shadow then turns the magic sword into a tiara and then disappears. Saladea then confronts the dragon and notices that he was alone for many years. She then keeps the tiara on the dragon's head and chants a spell. The spell converts the entire fog into spring and finally saves everyone. The dragon then becomes her pet and she names him Fruling. He's no longer alone, and this concludes the first arc or adventure of Yu. So, continuing the adventure, a few days later, Jamo tells the group that they're not stopping at a nearby village, the Country of Dead. Why? Well, according to him, it's hard to sell things there. Toto suddenly hears something and runs towards the direction. Yu and Merc follow him but get trapped by some mysterious fog. The fog then gets thickened, and when they open their eyes, they find themselves in a mysterious village. Yeah, it's no secret that it's basically the Country of Dead village. So there they meet Shonen, who informs them about the Bright Stone Festival. In this festival, people carry their stones which have been given since birth, so when they die, their soul gets trapped because of the stone. This festival is basically for the people who care about their loved ones. They break the stone in order to set their souls free. Shonen asks Yu for a favor. He hands him something and asks him to give it to his friend in the cursed castle. The scene then shifts and we meet a girl named Cosette. Her pet, Squeak, starts floating midair. She gets worried and starts following him to the cursed castle. Suddenly, she gets isekai to another magical world. Her father, Giantore, notices that she's not around and learns that she was last seen in the cursed castle. In the magical world, Cosette meets Shitoryu. He tells her that she has entered the town of dreams, Halloween, where basically dreams become reality. Cosette learns that people's dreams are mixed in this town. Meanwhile, Gentore is inside the cursed castle. He gets surprised after knowing that Cosette's pet, Squeak, is still alive. Squeak then takes Gentore into Halloween. To be honest, every otaku deserves a pet like him. Meanwhile, we see that Cosette and Shitoryu start to form a beautiful bond by sharing their stories. Now, you might be wondering where Yu is in all this mess. So he and Merc also enter the cursed castle. He finds himself in his own house. Basically, he's in the same scene where his father gives him a water bottle. On the other hand, Jintori lands in a house where he meets his dead wife, Eleanor. Yu then wakes up and reveals that he was reliving the memories of his father. Merc then notices a photograph of Shonen, but they get interrupted by some monster. Meanwhile, Cosette reveals that since starting, she was all alone, and even her father didn't love her that much. Her mother died while giving birth to her, and her father, Jintori, blames Cosette for that. On the other hand, we see Eleanor making Jintori understand that he needs to save his daughter, and not blame her for anything. She learns that he is carrying the bright stone of Eleanor. Jintori then takes out his sword and breaks the stone, making her soul finally find peace. He then reunites with Cosette and they share a heartfelt hug. Shintoryu realizes that she's now about to leave, but doesn't want her to go. Out of nowhere, Yu shows up with the bright stone of Shonen and gives it to him. We learn that they were friends before Shonen died. Shitoryu breaks the stone by eating it and releases the soul of his dear friend. He says thanks to Yu for everything and bids farewell to Cosette. In the end, everyone finally reaches the village safely, and another adventure comes to an end. On to the next portion. Somewhere near the Particio village, we see a popular diva singer, Selena, who's rejecting a guy named Antel. Why? Well, because Antel doesn't know how to sing. Duh. A few days have passed and we see Yu and Merc arrive at Particio village, where people express love by singing. Yu and Merc see that there's a lot of a crowd for Selena's concert tickets. In that crowd, they meet Forka, and they get stunned by her beautifully mesmerizing voice. Selena watches her singing secretly with her manager, and as Yu leaves, she goes to meet Forka. She asks her for a favor and invites her to her mansion. Yu and Merc get hit by a huge crowd, which are basically here to buy tickets to Selena's concert, and they end up falling into an abandoned place. In Selena's mansion, she asks Forka to take her place during the concert, because their voices are similar. She wants her to stand beside her and sing while Selena will pretend that she's the one actually singing. After some thinking, she agrees to her proposal. Loopy is the producer and composer of Selena, so he'll be her coach for a little while. You meet Antel inside the abandoned place. They hear a roar and notice a large creature. For some reason, Antel knows the monster. It turns out he has made some kind of deal with the creature and promises her to complete his side of the bargain soon. The creature tells Antel that she cannot wait any longer and goes back to sleep. Antel then explains to you that she is Voicia, and he made a certain promise to her. Suddenly he realizes that it's getting late and he's going to be late for his rehearsal and shows them a way out. On the other side, Loopy takes Forka to a concert show next stage. There she meets you and Merc. For some reason, Selena is also present there wearing a hoodie to hide her identity. Concert show begins with some bird monsters entering and performing. Suddenly, everyone hears a familiar voice. It's Selena's voice, but it's coming from Felicia, who is deep underground singing. Her singing makes the bird monsters go crazy, but Antel enters the stage and starts singing like an angel. His voice calms down all the birds and the crowd starts enjoying his voice. Selena sees Antel and leaves in guilt. Selena locks herself in her room after the incident. Forka tries to talk to her, but she doesn't let her in. Loopy then informs her that there are rumors spreading around the village about Antel and Selena's marriage. Forka then cheers her up by singing, and she finally opens the door. She invites her to the bedroom and tells her the truth that she's lost her power of singing. Meanwhile, Antel tells his story to you and Merc. When Selena rejected his proposal, he asked a friend for help to learn singing. They told him to come to the backstage of the theater, but he got lost and somehow ended up in the underground place, which is where he met Voicia. At the same time, Selena was giving her stage performance. Voicia, listening to her, took her voice in the middle of the performance. Antel got shocked seeing the bird is now speaking in Selena's voice. He asks the creature to return her voice. She tells him that she is sealed in this place by rocks because of her ugliness. She then makes a deal that if he destroys the rock on her body and frees her, she will return Selena's voice. Hearing this story, you and Merc decide to help Antel. Selena tells Forka that her parents made the decision to marry Antel. She thinks that Antel is here for revenge, but little does she know, Antel is just in love with Selena. The next day, everyone is ready for Antel's performance. Before the show, Voicia starts singing loudly. This triggers Selena, and she starts following the voice. She meets Voicia and gets shocked after learning that the creature took her voice. Voicia has the ability to control birds, and she gets ready to attack her. But our hero, Yu, intervenes and heals all the birds. Antel then asks her to return Selena's voice. Voicia just ignores them and starts singing loudly. Hearing this, Antel starts singing and breaks the bird free from the stones. Finally, Selena gets her voice back. After a few days before her performance, she runs back to Antel and finally confesses her feelings towards him. They hug each other and give a stage performance, which everyone enjoys. Some days later, we see you and the others are continuing their journey. On the way, they see a sky country where people have wings which are gifted by God. Jamo decides not to go there because there's no way to reach the country. While they're about to head back, a bird kidnaps Merc. Yu tries to save her, but he himself gets kidnapped by another bird. And that's why, kids, you should never mess with giant birds. On the island, General Ravial is fighting against a giant monster. Yu falls on the island and heals the monster. Suddenly, a girl named Pistia recognizes Merc as a holy water, which is said to be a blessing from God. They misunderstand Yu as the human who is spoiling Merc with his sins. Pistia learns that Merc has no memories, so they decide to take Merc to their holiness. Ravial then takes Yu to an isolated island, which is like a prison. Ravial tells him that if Her Holiness accepts Merc as a holy water, then he won't be able to be with Merc again. While he's trying to find a way out, he meets a boy named Ultos. But there's something strange. He doesn't have wings. He explains that he's one of the sky people, but since he doesn't have wings, the locals assume that he's a sinner. Later, they make a deal that Ultos will help him find Merc, and in exchange, Yu will provide him wings. Suddenly, they see some monsters who protect the tower. Taking this as an opportunity, Yu heals the monster and rides on his back. Together with Ultos, they finally reach back to the Sky Island. Meanwhile, Merc meets Her Holiness, Michaelia. She reveals that due to her heavy wings, she can't fly or walk. Merc asks about her memories and this whole being a holy water thing, but apparently she also doesn't know. Merc then just tells her about Yu and asks her to free him. This intrigues her, and she orders Ravial that she wants to meet you. As a side note, if you ever write a story, please don't name your protagonist you. It makes it so hard to talk about. So yeah, she wants to meet you. Not you, but you. You know, yeah. We learn that Ultos is Raviel's brother. The story then shifts to the past, when Ultos was born with no wings, so their father orders Raviel to take him to the isolated tower so that no one harms him. Back in the present, Raviel notices that Ultos and Yu are not there. Meanwhile, Yu and Ultos start bonding little by little. Michaelia then greets her sky people and prays for the welfare of everyone. Pistia is not happy because Michaelia is eager to meet Yu. She's basically unable to understand what Michaelia is thinking. During the night, Yu and Ultos successfully sneak into the Holy Palace. Michaelia reveals to Merc that the elders have entrusted their will to her. They believe that she will fly to heaven while carrying the wishes of her people. However, she doesn't know anything about God. Plus, she can't even fly due to her 4 wings. All she wants is to get rid of these wings. Suddenly, Ultos appears, saying that he wants those wings of hers. Yu reunites with Merc and finally meets with Michaelia. She instantly recognizes Ultos from the family of Ravials. Without thinking anything, Michaelia agrees to give him half of her wings and tells Pistia to prepare for the ritual of fallen wings. Ultos and Yu then climb to the top of the tower and enjoy the beautiful view before the ritual. But suddenly, Ravial and his team come to arrest Yu and Ultos. Michaelia learns that Pistia is the one who told Ravial about them. She apologizes, saying she doesn't want Her Holiness to get rid of her wings, and meanwhile, Yu tries to surrender himself but falls due to some strong wind. Even though Ultos doesn't have wings, he still goes to try to save him. On the other side, the ritual starts and Michaelia's wings open up. She gives her 2 wings to Ultos. He successfully saves Yu and reveals that because of him, he can finally see the beauty of the world from above. Ravial sees his little brother finally flying and takes a sigh of relief, saying he doesn't need to protect him anymore. The next day, Yu and Merc finally leave with Ultos carrying them. Soon, Yu and Merc meet Toto and Jamo. Ultos promises to Yu that they will soon travel the world together, and then flies away. In the end, they return to their kingdom and say farewell to Jamo. The next day, Merc learns that Yu and Toto are not around, so she asks one of the monsters about Yu's whereabouts. He then leads Merc into an unknown place, which is some kind of mysterious cave. On the other hand, we see Yu and Toto in the cave. He has entered this cave to find a monster called Crovis. This is a unique monster with gems embedded in its body. So it turns out Merc loves shiny gems, and loves this specific monster. Finally, he finds the monster and heals him. Apparently, Merc gets lost, but Yu finds her. She's upset and assumes that Yu doesn't want to go on a journey with her, but he confesses to her that it's her birthday, so he wanted to surprise her with this gift. Yu then finally decides that he wants to be an adventurer just like his father. Later, Yu gets a new job working for a caravan. They learn that their travelers are Jamo and his twin brother, Moja. They then finally leave for their next journey, and who knows what may come.